Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Just 3 rounds left then of a season which has been dominant from the very, very top. The DSL Welding Services V8 SuperCup, though, head to the Motor City. The Detroit Grand Prix at Belle is our destination. And as we sit in front of the Scott Fountain, this is going to be one very difficult race. We've seen already this season how the streets of Chicago were a very, very tricky test, and this will prove to be the same over the course of 40 laps. Welcome then to the third to last round of the season. I'm Jake Sperry. I've got Brady Baldwin alongside me for the ride here today around this very, very difficult, incredibly tough track. This, though, here at the Motor City, here in Detroit, is a circuit which doesn't necessarily have its ability to race anymore, but forever will be preserved in iRacing folklore. That is something that I absolutely love to see, Brady, out there in terms of racing. You want to go and prove yourself to be the best. Well, the only way you're going to do that is if the margins are as fine as possible here, with driving as close as possible to these very, very unforgiving walls.
We are very lucky as iRacers to continue to have this amazing track on the service, and we're here tonight for round number 10, Detroit Belle Isle, a very tough street circuit, one of the most renowned in the world. We will go to our Google Earth images. We'll zoom in on Detroit in the north of the United States of America. And Sperry, last night we did another broadcast here in these V8 touring cars, and man, it was absolutely incredible racing, action-packed, and I'm expecting much of the same tonight around the 3.8 kilometer circuit.
You can see here a look at this track, Strand Drives 1 and 2 on circuit, the fabled 711 complex going from turn 7 to turn 11. It's only a 2.36 mile circuit, so 14 turns clockwise, but you've got that really short run to turn number 1, and then the main place to make the pass here today, which is going to be turn number 3, riding down Central Avenue into the 90-degree left-hand bend. It's a unique characteristic that it doesn't necessarily have too many of the traditional fabled 90-degree street turns, but the corners that does have 90 degrees are a little bit more open and less square than what you traditionally imagine.
You would tend to think the main overtaking journeys, would be turn 3 and turn 7, but you will see a few moves done at turn 4 and turn 5 if you're bold enough, and even through turn 6, and then even some guys at turn 11 might get a little bit brave and throw the car up the inside. It is technically a little bit more difficult to overtake at this circuit, but if you're brave enough, if you're bold enough, you can get something done around here.
You absolutely can. And let's take a look at the championship standings in terms of where they look. They do have a couple drop rounds available, but it's Andrew Dyson who is fantastically at the front here at this point, clear by over 50 points still after missing some action last time out. Blake Warboys is currently in second, ahead by 16 over Thomas Freeman in third, with Sebastian Varndell in fourth position. We've seen Dylan O'Shea find good results this season. He's in fifth, with Tim Mulford in 6th position, with Michael Whiting and Blake Delaney 7th and 8th. Jai Schultz is up in 9th position, and Michael Taliancic rounds out the top 10 on 142 points. Looking, though, as well at your Super Sport category, Luke Crum holds what has been a very close championship in his hands at the moment, but Ty Delaney and Christopher Tomlin have both been proving that they are worthy contenders in this championship effort, and as such, it is just 7 points that split the top 3.
There's really nothing in it at all between those top 3. They've been the more dominant forces in that sport category championship for this series, and they've been splitting the wins between Crum and Delaney pretty much every single week, and Tomlin sort of came under the radar just a little bit to close the gap to 7 points, and even guys like Martin Hallen and Jack Anderson and even John Filliam, they've had some good results throughout the series, just haven't been able to string together a full championship so far.
Yeah, and today's action is as follows. We have gone through the 60 minutes of practice already. We are in the latter stages of the 30 minutes worth of qualifying, under 10 minutes to go in that, and the race is just 40 laps long, so this will come and go pretty quickly, but these drivers are restricted by their fuel tank to 66.6 litres and the 3 tyre sets that are available to them. That's how the track temperature looks right now. It is a chilly one over here at the Motor City, and you can tell that by session time. It's 7:20 here in the morning, which tells you everything that you need to know. It is going to be cold, and it is going to get hotter as this day goes on.
Certainly really good conditions at the moment for these V8 touring cars. 23 track temperatures, pretty optimal for these cars, but like you touched on, Sperry, the track will only get hotter throughout the run, so we'll have to keep an eye out on the final stint of the race. We are predicting about a one-stop race with a little bit of fuel saving for these drivers, so by the end of the race, the track will probably heat up nearly to about 30 is my guess, so it's only going to make it a little bit harder for these drivers. They'll have to conserve some tyres during that final stint of the race.
Yep, they definitely are. Andrew Dyson, though, is on top, and his teammate is just behind him at this stage. 128.303, the time to beat, and it's a good 0.222, the margin at this moment. So some really good times being put in on the board by the brilliance that is the DPR cars. But now as we focus on Jack Anderson, who is in 18th position at this point for Infinity Racing, going to be making this run here over towards turn 5, and you can tell how quick a driver is by how close he gets to the wall. Well, if you're too close like that, the car's going to break, and for Jack Anderson, he'll have to take a tow back into the pits. Now, it's going to be interesting when it comes to racing. Of course, this series has its own stewarding team, and as such has its own safety car team. So around a street circuit like this here, Brady, where you can get very close to the walls, you can make a mistake and damage the car in irreparable ways, there might be a very high chance here tonight that we might be getting some safety cars.
I want to put it down to a 99% probability that we will see a safety car. This track is just prone for it no matter what you do, because one little mistake around this place will cost you dearly. One little brake lock-up, you run wide, you're in a tyre barrier, you're in the concrete wall, which does massive damage to these guys. If you do that once or twice, you're pretty much done. So I think the safety car probability will be pretty high tonight, as just it's such tight confines like you touched on, Sperry. Like I said, one little mistake and it can be all over for you.
Seth Brown going on to a flyer here, and this is Central Avenue heading towards turn number 3. On the brakes, pick your marker, try and take as much as you can out of the corner and then drive off the exit. It's a short shoot run. Turn number 4, you need all the turn possible through there, and then into turn 5. The wall here on the outside is going to jut out at you, so you have to be alert to where you need to be. And then turn 6, up the hill, off camber, and you're always fighting the car for power off of the exit onto Strand Drive, which makes life even more tougher for Seth Brown. Never truly straight here around this Motor City circuit at Detroit Belle Isle. You always have to pick your line here at turn 7, turning it in, trying to get more drive, and then turn 8, which is a very tough single file left-hand bend, which leads you through these sweeping 9 and 10 always trying to set up for turn 11, get as much as you can open for it onto Strand Drive 2, over the parking places on the outside, which always makes this track a little bit dirty as you go through. Turn 12 is a lot faster than you think it is as you go underneath the bridge through turn 13, where you're looking for as much drive as possible. Bye-bye car, and that's fighting on the ragged edge, and Seth Brown's lap then falls to the wayside. Turn 14 is literally just a passing corner in the sense that you pass through it without too much of a thought, and that would then be a lap through. David Coleman, 640 Fishy Motorsports then, is currently looking for a good time in 8th place at the moment on a 29.3. It's a second down. He's actually just lost a place because first time of his session then has just gone on the board for Brian Borg out there in the Premier Racing Team machine. So Brian Borg able to set a time and is going to bring it back into pit. 6th place he goes at the moment as Thomas Freeman just goes 3rd fastest.
The one thing that the track map doesn't show around this place, and you can pick it up when you're on board with the drivers, the amount of undulation and the amount of bumps into the braking zone, as we'll ride on board with Jack Mickelson, the Infinity Race Machine. The amount of bumps into the braking area, turn 3, looks a pretty simple corner, but it's simply far from it. The amount of brakes and the amount the car unsettles going into the turn 3 braking zone is absolutely incredible and makes it quite a challenge for all these drivers. You can see again through 4, through 5, the amount of bumps on the braking application is simply incredible and really makes it what a pure driving track for these drivers in the V8 touring cars tonight.
It's a pure driving experience, and we are going to see that here over the course of what we are racing. But Mickelson now, knowing with 3 minutes and 37 seconds, he has got to get this lap time sorted. Then they are running in open qualifying conditions here on iRacing, more rather than to closed qualifying conditions. And the difference between open and closed, as these drivers make runs around this track, is that everybody can see everybody else out there on circuit. Late addition then to qualifying, as late can be for Brenton Nitschke. He may not even get a lap time in, he's that late into the session. But in terms of getting a time in, it means that when that clock does strike 0, anyone who is out on a qualifying lap may be allotted to finish their lap times. 31 flat then from Jack Mickelson, just a tiny improvement, or actually it's a bigger improvement than maybe we first thought. Jumps from 18th to 14th, so gained about 7/10 of a second there, and 4 places. There is Sebastian Varndale in the Mustang, number 4 Mustang in 5th position. That's not confusing. He's 200ths to improve.
And certainly we'll look to P11, Ty Delaney, the leader, second in the Super Sport Championship. He's got a massive margin. He's got about a second to Shane Nowens for the next car in class. So Ty Delaney putting it on for the Super Sport category at the moment. He's only 1.6 seconds off Andrew Dyson's, which is a really impressive effort in itself. But the margin he has over his fellow competitors in Super Sport category is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it is, and he's really pushing here to try and improve that even further, give himself some more room out there. Is 0.6 of a second off of David Coleman at this point, and that's what pushing too much gets you. Slams it into the wall, and that then will be that in terms of that lap time. 1:45, so drivers need to be out on track now if they want to set a flying lap time, and we'll go with Thomas Freeman at this point, really trying to maximize his times. Look how close it is between 3rd and 5th, just a half a tenth between them, and that is the lap time gone. Just pushing too hard into turn 3, and that is any attempt at improving a qualifying lap time over and done with. Last lap then for Luke Crum, who is 2nd at the moment in his category, and looks like he's not gearing up for another flying lap. He is going to pull the car over and say, I can't improve on this any further out there overall. Someone who is trying to improve a bit more is Michael Taliancic. Now, he's been dealing over the last few weeks at least with a bit of an arm issue and has been, I would say, a little bit off the pace compared to what you'd expect from the 777, but the more that his arm seems to get better and better, the more likely he's going to be up near the front of the field challenging.
It didn't certainly stop him last night picking up the win in the V8 Veterans Series that we did broadcast here on SimSpeed TV. So a little bit of track knowledge for Taliancic just last night, less than 24 hours ago, in fact. So Taliancic is really on the limit through 4, 5, and 6. Down straight and drive into the very difficult braking zone at turn 7. You're never really on a straight. You're constantly turning. Down straight and drive through 7. He'll come through turn 8 and 9 as well. Car looks really balanced at the moment, Sperry, and hopefully he's only about 4.5 tenths off Andrew Dyson, so he'll definitely be looking to improve on that on this lap.
Checker flag then is out here at the Detroit City, known as Belle Isle. So for the likes of Brian Borg, Michael Taliancic, they'll be looking to try and get their times to improve. Taliancic through turn 13 and over towards the line. Brian Borg's just completed his lap. That won't count. But here comes Taliancic. Answer is a nothing. He got too close to the boundaries, and his lap time will not count. John Fillingham is out then on a lap trying to get anything else out of it. Down in 18th position, needs a 10th of a second to jump Troy Mortensen in the P51 SimSport machine, which the 151 is driving, but he's going to pull that over to the pits. And it's a fast run into the pit, so it's going to cause a few troubles here today. Jack Mickelson looking for time as well in 15th position, is going to be hoping that his Infinity Racing car is going to do everything possible. Now, just watch out around these qualifying laps, because they will 0x, which means you hit the wall, you don't do anything to... Oh, well, that's not a 0x. That's a lot more than 0. That's a massive hit through there, and that's his lap time done, which allows Brenton Nietzsche to try and complete a lap for the Frog Leap Juiced Racing car. And we'll see if Nietzsche can jump up. It's pressure when you've only got one lap to 130.4. It's good enough to put another car between Delaney and Crump at its 13th position with that lap time. So 20 cars here today, and everybody over the line then. So we'll take a look at the grid on how they stack today here around Belle Isle. And it is Andrew Dyson who will have his teammate for company here today, a 128.303, with Dylan O'Shea in second position. Thomas Freeman will be the nearest challenger in the Fishy Motorsports car, with the two pursuit machines of Michael Taliancic and Sebastian Varndell in 4th and 5th. Brian Borg will go from 6th position overall, with 7th belonging to Michael Whiting. Jamie Dyke in 8th position on the grid, both Fishy cars there. Tim Mulford in 9th, with David Coleman rounding out the top 10. Then a bigger gap back to Ty Delaney in 11th and Seth Brown in 12th position overall. 13th belongs to Brenton Nietzsche, with Luke Crum in the LCR machine 14th, as Shane Nowens and Jack Mickelson will be 15th and 16th. Chris Tomlin will go from 17th, with Troy Mortensen for Platinum Racing in 18th position, leaving John Fillingham and Jack Anderson, the last two cars then on the grid, 19th and 20th positions overall. As you can see right now, not really too much has changed from the circuit from where it started out overall, but we are expecting this maybe to develop a little bit. Nothing to worry about in terms of wind direction here, so it's a relatively calm day here around Belle Isle, but 40 laps will be anything but over the course of racing action, and they know it as they have themselves 2 minutes to grid themselves up onto the grid. That short run to turn 1, we've seen so many times drivers get an amazing start, Brady, but then fall into the pitfall of we've gone too aggressive into the opening corner.
I couldn't agree with you more there, Sperry. Like you said, it's a very short run, and I think everyone just sort of piles up and gets on top of each other at times, and hopefully we don't see that tonight. Hopefully everyone gets through cleanly and gets through turn 1 and 2 and gets down Central Avenue, and then I think that's where the action's going to start happening at turn 3 at the end of Central Ave.
Well, if that is the place to do it here, of course, with DSL Welding and Insign Lay Productions and Double S Images as well, this is going to be a very important race, not just for those up at the front of the field, but those looking at that Super Sport title as well, which we will keep an eye out on. They've got 2 drop rounds. This may be one of them, and somewhere in those boxes on the left-hand side is virtually us at this point in time. Those boxes there on the left giving us a little bit of indication of what we would see out there on circuit. But the two SimSpeed, those 2 cars out in front there, the simrigs.com DPRs, they've got a good run as they now go to turn one. And immediately there's a bit of contact through as getting an awful start then is Sebastian Varndell, who very nearly gets shoved in the wall by Michael Whiting as he barged his way through. Watch how squirrely the rear of a couple of these machines are as they run now through Central Avenue for the first time. And look, try and hit the brakes on cold brakes through this section. Very easy just to tiptoe in. Brentanichka very nearly clipping the wall there in the juice. Frog Leap car there, so running through the rights at turn 4. Looks like everybody has got themselves through, but what is a very tricky circuit off of the start, everyone has managed to traverse.
Good to see everyone behaving so far on the first lap. Really nothing to report from our end, and looks like Dyson's just pulled away just a little bit. Got a little bit of an edge over his teammate O'Shea. Taliantage already, he's up to P3, so he's jumped Thomas Freeman, who's now down to P4. And Sebastian Varndell, like you said, he's dropped 2 spots off the start to Borgen Whiting. So Varndell has been mega consistent all season long. He'll have to do it the hard way here tonight.
The hard way is not the easiest way to win a race, I will say that much with intent, but flying through on this opening lap, it is Andrew Dyson who is starting to pull away then at the front of the field. There is Michael Taliancic, who gained a place off of the start, is up into third and is immediately looking to harass Dylan O'Shea in the early stages of this race. Then through turn 2, up and over the waters then as they go through. We saw on the run through the... doing a General Motors, just what I was talking about. There goes David Coleman into the wall, and that might bring out a few troubles, and he takes the tow without calling for assistance. That'll be a penalty out there, I'll be sure of that, because you have to wait and call for a tow out here in this series.
Yeah, just a massive moment there for Coleman. Just got the bump over turn 1 and 2 just a little bit wrong and unsettled the rear of the race car. Unfortunately, once that happens, you're just a passenger at that point. So real unfortunate for Coleman. Nothing really he did wrong, just the car got a bit unsettled, and once you lose the rear, especially that high speed around that corner, like I said, you're pretty much a passenger. There's not much you can really do there.
Take another look at it here. This is how easy it can go wrong. You're up over this bridge through turn 2, and it just picks up. Now you're going to see the back end steps away, and at that point, not much you can do. Completely noses the car in to the wall underneath that Chevrolet bridge, that footbridge, and then the car on the outside there. Not much you can do about that, but it would have brought a safety car out had he followed official procedure, and that would have brought the field right back down to a slow and a stop, so he'll get a penalty for that, mark my words. But there is Sebastian Varndell trying to make his way back through the field after the slow start. Does have Jamie Dyke behind, but he's got to get past Michael Whiting first, and that's going to be the difficulty. Brian Borg then thinking about a little look then on Thomas Freeman, who is trying to stay within Michael Taliancic's range. 9/10 of a second, that gap, but ultimately it is going to be a patience game to start off here. And this is the sort of track as well where the fuel tank limit is going to open up a bit of strategy, mainly because you are going to struggle around this place today to hit full throttle. As we take a little look then at Michael Taliancic, how close are you going to get to the wall, Sunshine, through this final corner? Ooh, little kick of tail.
A little bit of a moment there for Taliancic coming off turn number 13. It's a pretty typical thing to happen here at Detroit Belle Isle as we go back to Sebastian Varndell, currently P7, in behind the Fishing Motorsports 025 of Michael Whiting. We stated earlier, Varndell lost a few spots off the start. Started in 5th, he's now down to P7, so he'll be working hard over the back of Michael Whiting, but he's also got Jamie Dyke in behind his rear spoiler too, so it's a little bit of a 3-4-way battle pack at the moment forming here for P number 5.
Yes, and that's going to be key, because the more that they stack up upon each other, the more difficult it gets. And we know how difficult passing is traditionally on street circuits through turns 1 and 2. A little bit wider line there from Michael Whiting through the opening corner. Just about gathers it back. That was very nearly Sebastian Varndell gone out there on track. Had to really gather up the car through turn 2 and was able to just about hold his machine in check, and there's off the road, almost there. Thomas Freeman getting into a little bit of trouble. Whiting has to bail out of the power, and thank you very much. Varndale has the inside here at turn 5, and as they run through, that's his position. So that's how quickly you look around a circuit like this and say, it's all gone.
We might try and pick up a VRS replay of that little mistake from Thomas Freeman into the braking zone of turn 3. Initial thoughts, he just missed his braking marker just a little bit. Sebastian Varndale, massive moment of turn number 2, even kisses the concrete with the right rear quarter panel. We'll stay with Thomas Freeman in the number 1 machine for just a moment. It looks like he just missed his braking marker. Didn't get it stopped in time. Very lucky to keep out of the wall. Unfortunately, 1 spot lost to Brian Borg. And then, unfortunately for him, he cost his teammate Michael White a spot to Varndale.
He did. And the issue that you got at turn 3 is that you don't have much room to gather the car back. So he was fortunate enough he didn't have to pitch the car into a flick spin to get going, as brushing the wall there. Out of turn 13 goes Jamie Dyke, who's trying to really go for it. So you've got 3 fishy cars in the train here, and Sebastian Varndale, who is very much the difference maker. Let's take another little look then at this. So this is Michael Whiting's view of this. So sees the car wide, and suddenly, I can't take the natural line. My teammate's there, and trying to give the teammate the position. All of a sudden, there's Varndale on the outside, who thinks, you know what, you can't lift off for a second when you're street racing and you're here around the Belle Isle. You have to be 100% at this place and going for it as much as possible. And it will feel a little bit like home for everyone who's driving around in a Ford Mustang. Of course, popularized here around Detroit is the Ford Motor Company.
Varndale sniffed a small opportunity and took it, and that's what you got to do around Detroit Belle Isle. One little mistake, if the door opens up, you simply got to take it. It's not one of the easiest places to overtake, so he's took the opportunity while it arose, and great work to Varndale. He's got 1 spot back that he did lose at the start of the race. There's Barry.
I do want to note that Troy Mortensen is down in the pits right now and has been for a while out there on circuit. He drove the car in with damage, and as such, his race is looking very second-hand at this point. But here's a look from the rear wing, just showing you how much you need to be alert. And the one thing that I'm noticing more than anything else is the bumps around here. It is very much a case that you need your suspension to be working in tandem with the way that you drive around this place. And again, Varndale clips the wall coming through turn 2. He doesn't like that corner, and with good reason.
There's a lot of unsettled race cars at the moment, maybe with a little bit higher fuel load on board. The track temp has not changed, so the track is essentially the same the whole time we've been on air. So some cars just not too settled over the bumps, and it's critical to have a comfortable car over those bumps, otherwise it makes your life very, very difficult. And you've got to be very careful on your throttle application, get out of the corners, because one little slip up of the throttle over the bumps on acceleration can cost you dearly, as we've seen with David Coleman earlier.
Yeah, we did see, and just how difficult that is. On the brakes they go, everyone in nice and conservatively into the 7-11 section of this circuit through 8, now 9 and 10, which leads to the 11 of the 7-11, the fountain section of the circuit then as they run through. It is getting a little bit close as well between Tim Mulford and Seth Brown for 10th and 11th positions just behind. You can see them just in the back of shot there as they went on through. So that's going to be another one to keep in mind, as there is these two going at it at the moment. Tim Mulford lost 1 position so far in this race, but Seth Brown's just slowly getting into this race. It's not necessarily the qualifying that gets it done, but Brown doing some good work here over the course of this race as they battle through 1 and 2.
Some consistent laps from Seth Brown so far early on this race, taking on the back of Mulford in the early stages, as we will go to a VRS replay. This is Ty Delaney in the 07 machine. The leader, actually, we're going to Jack Mickelson, the 26 Infinity Race Machine. Big moment, big slide into 3, and what a save as well for Mickelson to keep it out of the barriers anymore.
Oh, no.
He's got massive damage on the right-hand side, Sperry, and there's another moment. Yep, he's done.
And again, not following procedure, so no safety car there. And again, Another driver who doesn't find themselves. Oh, Borg! Brian Borg in trouble. Then getting it all wrong at turn 7. Pushing onto the outside then is Michael Whiting. He can't find a way through. Up a place then will go Varndale. Up a place will go Freeman. And Brian Borg, you don't often see mistakes out of him, but we have just seen one here today. We call him the Bry Borg for a reason. It's because he is very, very good at finding the same position again and again and again over his laps.
Very similar mistake to what Thomas Freeman made at turn number 3 just a couple laps ago. Just lock the fronts up, miss his braking marker just a little bit. And when you do that, you run wide, and you got to pull it up even a little bit more because you don't have any runoff here at Detroit Belle. You pretty much either got to pull up very, very quickly, and you will lose spots like he has, or you're basically in the tire barrier or the concrete. So that's why the little mistakes like that cost you dearly at this circuit.
Oh, they do. And we'll have another look at how this goes wrong for Brian Borg. So he's on his own trying to chase, and he just completely overshoots it. Has done just enough to get away from everyone else, and it's such a sketchy rejoin over at turn 7. Not by him, but just in general. It's very tough to get back on the power after turn 7 if you've gone wide, because you come back and filter onto the racing line, and there's nowhere else really you can go.
There's really not much room to work with here, Sperry, at this circuit, and Brian Borg did really nothing wrong. He had a nice little rejoin. He came out pretty much in the nick of time and only lost 2 spots because of it. He's already pressuring Varndale in the number 4 machine, who's sporting a little bit of damage on that race car already, so I don't think it'll be affecting him too much performance-wise. It's only left side door damage by the looks of it. So far Varndale holding off Borgie, but I know Brian will be certainly up on the wheel trying to get those spots back that he just lost after that crucial mistake.
Yeah, so those small mistakes are really starting to add up at this moment. So it is going to be very, very tough in terms of what they are dealing with. So 3 retirees then from this race already. David Coleman, Troy Mortensen, and Jack Mickelson at this moment. But at least for the other drivers here, it is a train led by Sebastian Varndale, who is having to be defensive now. Thomas Freeman has broken away in this race for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and they're all going to want to try and find a way through. Brian Borg has priority in terms of trying to find the passes. They go through the middle sector of the circuit, through turn 5 and in towards turn number 6, and it's all about gearing up this run through 6, trying to get drive off the exit. That wasn't brilliant there by Sebastian Varndale. Really missed the apex, and suddenly here comes Brian Borg. He's going to have to do it the long way around here, and I think Varndale is just going to let that one go. I wonder how much damage Seb's dealing with at this point in time, and you can see there that rear right is out of alignment here because he has been brushing it against the wall from time to time. You can see that that's going to be doing him no favours.
I think 10% of that number 4 machine is pure concrete at the moment. He's been using up all of the road. Sebastian Varndale on the number 4 machine. He's been pushing it to the absolute limit, trying to extract every little bit. And once again, coming out of turn number 12, he glances the concrete, So Varndale's really pushing hard, and looks like, I think he might be sporting a bit of damage because he's certainly dropped off the pace massively in the last 2 or 3 laps, Barry.
Yeah, he is starting to struggle now, and he is waiting for a pit stop to fix any of the damage that he's got available. They'll get the virtual team out on it, stick a bit of gaffer tape around it and go, yep, that's good as new. Let's get that one back out and going again. On the brakes then into turn 3, it's Michael Whiting's turn to have a search on the Pursuit Sim Racing machine. So now you got to really start thinking about what do you do out there through the left of turn number 5, thinking about where turn 6 brings you the opportunity once again. It's a little bit better this time by Sebastian Varndale, but look at how Brian Borg has already pulled out 1.2 seconds. This is costing these drivers right now, the fact they're bottled up behind.
I don't think Whiting will be stuck behind Varndale too long. I think he'll want to get the move done as soon as possible. Varndale again glances the wall in turn number 8, so he's certainly struggling in that number 4 Pursuit Sim Racing machine, and Whiting's just trying to get his nose in under, maybe force a mistake from Varndale. Nothing happening so far, and it's also holding up Jamie Dyke just a little bit, his teammate, and in the bracket, and Brendan Nishka slowly making progress in the 066 machine. He started P number 13 with only one lap of qualifying. He's up to P9, and if these guys get held up too much by the number 4 machine, don't expect this 066 to stay back too much longer.
No, I very much agree, but it is worth talking about Super Sport right now because Luke Crum in the 30 has his eyes set on Shane Nowens for position right now. Nowens is driving fantastically here around Belle Isle in the Mauler Esports machine. That is Jack Anderson just in front. Ty Delaney's 8 seconds down the road. I'm not sure they're going to catch him today. John Fillingham thinks he's in the mix as well. And this is second, third, and fourth in category as they all try and go through. And they know just how crucial it is to get a good performance. Goodness me, John. That was close to the wall there. Having to gather a slide up there through turn 2 could have very easily have been the end of the race, but on the brakes in towards 3 they go once again. Off of Central Avenue they drive, and now you're starting to work out, okay, where am I strong against the cars in front? Where am I weak against the cars in front? Holden against 2 very rampaging Mustangs here as they head to turn 6.
A very important battle for the 30 of Luke. Remember, he is the championship leader of the Super Sport category, and his championship rival, Ty Delaney, he's nowhere to be seen at the moment. So Ty Delaney making the most of this really good race so far, and Luke Crum, he's 4th in the category at the moment, so it'll be very important for him to try and get past the 73 of Nowens, who's actually doing a really good job tonight, probably one of his season best drives so far for the 73s. So Luke Crum struggling just a little bit tonight to adapt to this very harsh street circuit, and he'll certainly be looking to try and get the job done the 73 soon as Fillingham again in the 151. A bit of a moment there coming off turn number 11.
Yeah, a little bit of a moment, so trying to get some drive going, trying to find as much as he can out there to really ratchet up the pace and make a move happen, but every time you can get a little bit of a gap, that is going to help. And Shane Nowens is going to be boosted by the fact that he's got his track set on Jack Anderson. A little bit out of line having to go there for Luke Crum. He took so much speed through turn number 2, but he's not going to get another chance then here at turn 3. But this is where you start sensing where drivers are strong and weak. This is where you start sensing those small mistakes that come through. And you've got to, on a street circuit, plan a lot in advance. Bang! There goes Shane Nowens, just as we were thinking about it. He's going to be able to keep the car going, but he's going to be heavily wounded.
Massive damage to the right front corner there of Shane Nowens. That's certainly going to affect his pace throughout the race. We might try and pull up a VRS replay, try and dissect what happened to the 73 coming through turn number 4. Gets the rear just loose, breaks traction, doesn't gather it back in time. Unfortunately, keeps the boot in it just probably a little bit too long. Doesn't get on the brakes in time, and massive contact with the right front into the wall there. Fantastic pictures there from producer Jay Kennedy. Once again, as we go back on screen, the battle continues. Varndell, Whiting, and Jamie Dyke are still going at it for P number 6. Varndell has not receded quite yet. He's picked up his pace from the last few laps, and certainly he's holding off Whiting for now, but I think Whiting's still maybe a little bit flustered getting stuck in behind Varndell here at the moment.
We are close to the pit stop window opening up, and that is going to bring strategy. And if you're bottled up behind, then you're starting to think about, well, okay, I'm going to need a little bit of fresh air to go in and make a pit stop. Let's take another little look then here at what has happened here with Shane Nowens, who goes through, spins the car around, blocks the road up then for Christopher Tomlin, who very much isn't having the day that he would want out there, just trying to find a finish out there at this point. But you are starting to see here, braking slightly now as Varndell away. He is just finding a little bit of a margin now as he gets more confidence in how the car is responding at this stage of the race. So it is a check and a balance, and he's doing just about enough here. He's just behind there, Whiting holding station. There is a race leader in this one. It is Andrew Dyson. He is clear at the moment by 4.6 seconds out the front of the field. So still very much got a race on our hands there as well for second as it continues on then with this 3-car at this moment. Comparing lap times, 1:30.314s for both Varndell and Whiting. Dyke on a 30.4, Nishka on a 30.4. So they're all even right now in the middle of the field.
Really nothing between 6th to 9th at the moment, like you just touched on, Sparing. Beautiful shot there coming through turn number 4 as Carcel flying through, using all the curves they can. Vardell once again using all of the track, scraping the concrete on the exit of the corner, and again into 6. And Whiting looks like he's got a really good run through 4, 5, and 6. He might put some pressure on here on a move and maybe force a mistake from the number 4 machine. Whiting daring around the outside for turn number 7. This is very bold from the 025. He won't quite get it done. Nice driving there and awareness from the 025 of Whiting just to get back in behind and try again later another time.
Yeah, Sebastian Varndell showing him what his option was. If he continued to stick the boot in around the outside, it would have been wall if that were the case. So Varndell is going to get the elbows out, and he's got to be gritty and scrappy at this point, because remember, if you look around today, there is a certain Blake Warboys that is not here. This is a free kick for him in terms of jumping forward. The one other driver he'll be looking at today that he's trying to stave ahead of is going to be Thomas Freeman, who's in 4th position in the number 1 car. So this is very much another case of Sebastian Varndell after the opening couple of rounds of trying to scrap for every point he can get his hands on.
We mentioned it earlier. Varndell's been the model of consistency for the series. A massive moment for Varndell. He's in the fence. Massive moment for Varndell. Locked the rears, lost the rear grip, and massive moment in this race. Varndell has even more damage on that left-hand side of the car. We'll try and pick it up again on the VRS replay. Might get a slow-mo of it, and he's blown the engine. Varndell has a blown motor. Will he make it back to the pits? If he doesn't, it surely might be a safety car.
Well, he'll spew all across this circuit. He'll be desperate to get that home. He's hoping that the engine doesn't completely expire on him, and that will be his race over, mark my words. So he's been flirting with danger for a long time, and well, he only now gets the receipt for it. So hitting the brakes in through, slightly misses it, and that's what pressure does to you. You can see here, there's the tyres, and there's a lot of them. Boom! There he goes, and there's not much that he can do from there. He's fortunate he didn't bounce out further back into the circuit. He's only got a couple corners now before he will have to dive down in and take that pit stop, and everyone else will know from about a mile away just how wounded he is, and they'll see the plume of smoke around the circuit. He will make it back in time. There is enough oil in the car to make sure that he can make the pits, and that's a real shame for Sebastian Varndell. His race is going to be all but over. P2, by the way, it's on. Dylan O'Shea now finds himself in a bit of a pickle, because Michael Taliancic, who had been just leaving a gap over this opening stint, has just worked his way back into contention here at this moment in time, and the 777 car is going to be really trying to alert himself to the potential of second place out here in this one.
I couldn't imagine how hard Taliancic must be working with only one fully functioning arm or hand with his injury that he has. So the performance he's putting in at the moment, staying right with the 19 of Dylan O'Shea, who's been one of the standouts in this series, has won multiple races in this championship. It's a monumental effort for Taliancic. Probably one of the hardest circuits on the iRacing service, one of the hardest circuits in the world, especially in these big, heavy V8 touring cars that don't like to turn, don't like to stop. It's a very monumental, a massive effort for Michael Taliancic, the 777. He's right on the back of Dylan O'Shea. He won't get anything done this time by, but he's certainly putting the pressure on, and one little mistake for O'Shea, he'll be right in there.
He certainly will. And again, very even on their lap times. 30.251 from Dylan O'Shea, 30.294 from Michael Taliancic. So slightly drops back over that lap, but this is heading just before that pit window, and everyone's going to be looking around going, well, who wants to come in? Who wants to make that first stop then here in this race? And that's what they're going to be alert to. That's what they're going to be trying to keep their eyes on, is who's going to make a run at it as they now traverse through turn 5 out on track. Very easy to get it all wrong. Dylan O'Shea takes all of the circuit. You can see that small dip as you go through that very tough section. You're always looking to try and put the power down as much as possible. Speaking of drivers who are trying to gain a little bit out there, Luke Crum is all over the back of Jack Anderson for 13th position as Taliancic gets it all wound up on the brakes there, just about getting it slowed down. But Luke Crum, he's got to try and find a pass here on Jack Anderson. It's not going to be easy, but on the brakes, he's going to close it right in. He's going to throw it in way too deep. He's going to gather it back up. He's going to lose a second.
With the misfortune of Shane Nowens at the 73, Luke Crum really needs to capitalise and get the job done on Jack Anderson here and limit the damage to Ty Delaney, who's 14 seconds ahead. He's absolutely blitzing the Supersport field here tonight, the 07 machine. So Luke Crum, a little few mistakes creeping in, and hopefully he can get them sorted and chase down Jack Anderson as Taliancic right on the back of Dylan O'Shea through 1 and 2. That was as close as you would ever want to get in these cars, and Dylan O'Shea maybe just dropped me off just a little bit, and I think maybe Taliancic isn't probably too fussed to get by them. He might be fuel saving a little bit, but as I say that, he gets on the rear bumper of O'Shea. He's looking a bit aggressive here at the 777, so maybe he looks like he wants to get the job done very, very soon.
He absolutely will. And it's about finding the room to make that happen. He's going to push him through turn 6 and unsettle Dylan O'Shea. Taliancic putting every trick in the book into play to try and unsettle Dylan O'Shea at this stage. Not quite happening just yet. Into turn 7. No dice on the attempt. He's going to give him another little shot to the back through this section. He's saying, I'm quick. I'm good. I could go through and make a position up here. This is what Michael Taliancic is hoping for at this point in time. Through 10, into 11, through this continental section of road. And once more, Taliancic is going to have to stare at the back of the simrigs.com DPR machine, which is in second position, housing the 1-2 at this point in time. Rousing through turn number 13. Neither makes the stop, and they will continue on in terms of this very important race, as this continues to be a chance for them. A bit of lap traffic in front. Shane Nowens back out there and racing again, so maybe a chance then. Jump forward, and as you say that, Luke Crum has just made the move on Jack Anderson and has got himself up a place into 12.
Very nice move there for Luke Crum through turn 7, as we say, on board with Taliancic and Dylan O'Shea. They're coming up to the lap car of Shane Nowens, just up ahead in the 73, and Taliancic looks very pacey. A big moment there coming out of turn number 4, and all this is doing is it's inviting Thomas Freeman right in the battle. He's closed right up to these two, so it's looking like it's going to be a three-way battle for second place really, really shortly, Sperry.
Yeah, it is going to be a close battle. Luke Crum, by the way, has just dived into the pit, so he made the move, made the stop. But now, here in this race, it is these two, soon to be 3, out there at this point, and they are going to try and do everything they possibly can. So here's a look at the move then, right before turn 7, and that's how you get it. Anderson there running a little bit wide, clubbering the wall on the outside, and Luke Crum getting a freebie for it. Had to work to secure the position. It wasn't necessarily safe through turns 7 and 8. You can see having to stay to the middle of the road to defend the place not only once, but here at turn 8 having to defend, which is not something you normally say.
He had to make him work hard for it, Jack Anderson, and then straight away Luke Crum decided, that's enough, let's pit, let's get on some fresh boots and get on out there. Maybe the undercut will work. He will have to do a little bit of extra fuel saving towards the end of this race. We mentioned in the intro that it will be tight on fuel with a bit of fuel saving, as Brian Borgen, the 017, he's the first of the front runners to take his one and only pit stop for this race.
Yeah, so he'll come in and make that stop, and it's now going to be about what these 3 do. Second, third, and fourth. Thomas Freeman has been putting in some fantastic laps. He's been roughly half a second a lap quicker than these drivers in front, but you need roughly around a second a lap to make an overtake around this place, which does seem weird to say, but you do need a little bit more if you're going to find the pass. So this is going to be a little bit fruitful, and if I was Thomas Freeman right now, I would get right in the mix, make my pit stop now, and give everybody a notice that I'm going to want to try and gain those places through 9 and 10. Once again, always trying to transfer over for turn 11. Taliancic has been there all this time. thinking about how do I get past number 19. I've shown a little bit of my hand in terms of what I'm capable of doing, and through they go. In comes the 212 machine then of Christopher Tomlin. He's going to make a pit stop, and Michael Taliancic is going to try and go through, as well as Thomas Freeman. They're going to hang out to dry number 19 Dylan O'Shea, as it looks like DPR have a strategy.
I was just about to mention I wouldn't be surprised if Taliancic came in the pit, because it looked like certainly he was getting held up by the 19 of O'Shea, and then Freeman, who closed right up to the back of Michael Taliancic in the 777, he's come in as well. So those two will be very similar, very close on the way out. And now surely O'Shea has got to react. He's been going a little bit slower, losing a little bit of time the last couple laps. So surely the 19 will come in for that one compulsory pit stop, get some new tyres on, and try and hopefully stay with Taliancic, as we'll get pictures of Taliancic coming out of the pits.
Oh, he's jumped him by a mile.
He's cleared Thomas Freeman by quite a lot. He's gained more time, so maybe a little bit more fuel saving for Taliancic, as I expected earlier. And Brian Borg hasn't really made any ground either on Thomas Freeman, so pretty much status quo at the moment until the two DPR cars come into the pits.
Well, status quo is going to be key, and we'll soon find out. There is your race leader, Andrew Dyson, 12 seconds to the good right now. He is on an island on his own, driving fantastically, and in he comes to make his pit stop, down to just 63 kilometers an hour on the lane. And there'll be Dylan O'Shea, who looks like he's got a car that's a little bit more second-hand. In fact, he's going to stay out longer here on this run. So Dylan O'Shea then is looking to try and go through, try and open it up. It looks like he's had an issue, a small issue, at turn 3 on his lap. So that's where he's gone through. He's actually got into the wall hard at turn 3. So let's have a look at this. So having to keep the pressure up in through turn 3. Oops, that's a heavy hit. And in fact, it's going to go straight on. He's gone straight on again at turn 3.
Massive moment for Dylan O'Shea. I thought it was Brian Borg's had an issue too. Borgie in the 017, he's had an issue at turn 7 too. It's starting to turn on its head, this race. Massive moment for Dylan O'Shea. I thought it was pretty bold staying out, considering his troubles in the last few laps, and he's made 2 crucial mistakes. It's certainly going to hurt him massively in this race.
Yeah, this is a big one here for Brian Borg through turn 7 on his own. 7's been his sticking point this race, a little bit too much into the wall, and that's difficult there. When the cars turn around like that, he has to wait for the drivers to go through, and then he's got to flick spin it without getting disqualified for going backwards. He manages that and is able to get that going again, but ultimately that is a huge number of positions. He's now down behind the likes of Thomas Freeman by a massive amount then in this race, and you've still got to think about where drivers are in comparison. Dylan O'Shea, that gap now is down to just 2 seconds between him and Jamie Dyke. He has driven himself over the last couple of laps well out of this race. He's going to dive in on lap 22. Give credit to Jamie Dyke. He's staying out still.
I thought we're only going to get about 20 to 21 laps on this field. He's going for 23, so massive kudos to the 80 of Jamie Dyke. He'll lead the lap, as behind him, Jack Anderson comes out. He's actually jumped back in front of Luke Crum, interesting enough. So that will be for second in Supersport. So great work for Jack Anderson after a little mistake earlier on. He's driven through and he's repassed Luke Crum in the pit stop. As we go back on with Andrew Dyson, he has a massive lead back to Taliancic. On the screen is about 8 seconds, so he's pretty much maintained that gap to Taliancic, but it's Dylan O'Shea who's finally come in the pits, and he's coming out right now in behind Thomas Freeman, just in front of Michael Whiting. So he's effectively gone from second to fourth, and he's quite a ways away from Thomas Freeman, about 7 to 8 seconds. So huge loss there for the number 19.
I tell you what, Michael Taliancic made his pit stop trying to jump ahead, and he's going to look behind at Dylan O'Shea and go, well, what happened there? And that's going to be what I think's interesting. Big slam into the wall for number 51, Seth Brown, getting it all shades of wrong. And thank you very much. Tim Mulford is going to jump through and gain the place. So just like that, Seth Brown making a mistake at turn 2. And because there are so many laps here, because you are trying to run very similar lines over and over again. The moment you just blink wrong, that's it. That's a mistake, and you're in trouble. And that is, of course, as well, a Tim Mulford who's just out of the pits. We'll take a look here from the door handle. So we're going to see how scuffed this door handle's going to be as you go through. So through the right, bang. Oh, look at that. Door handle caved in.
I think the panel shop for his race team is only going to be busy after this race repairing all the damage from that one small little mistake, as we see the 80 of Dyke in the pit lane, goes past. Andrew Dyson is gone by. Talianchis has gone by. So has Thomas Freeman. Michael Whiting's actually got the job done on Dylan O'Shea. So even though Dylan O'Shea's come out with fresh tyres, he's actually lost the spot to Michael Whiting. And Jamie Dyke, is that Jamie Dyke? Yes, it is. So Jamie Dyke has gone longer and made up 2 positions. So the number 80 machine's pulled off a bit of a masterclass in the pit strategy there.
He's 4th. It's Jamie Dyke, which is one of the best runs he's had all season, and he'll be really happy with the way that he's driving at this stage. Brian Borg, by the way, now is out of this race, so he's in trouble. So this is what happens then. Oh my goodness me. That is a heavy slap into the wall there for Dylan O'Shea, who's really starting to feel the pressure right now. And we have just noted that Brian Borg is now out of this race. So Brian Borg brought the car, or actually had a bigger issue out there, and hit the wall out of 12, it looks like. Tried to bring it into the pit, couldn't get it stopped, spun it in the pit, said, you know what, that's my day. We'll park the car and our day's over. So 13 drivers right now on the leading lap, soon to be 12. But at least for the moment, it's this 3-car scrap that we're watching. 4th, 5th, and 6th. And Jamie Dyke is driving away from Michael Whiting.
Once again, Jamie Dyke, a massive kudos to him for going as long as he did, 23 laps. I did not think that was possible with the limited fuel restrictions that these guys have in this series. But man, he's really done a fantastic job to go that long, and then also jump Whiting and O'Shea. O'Shea has had his issues, sure, but Michael Whiting hasn't really had any issues all race long. So to jump his teammate as well after going longer, certainly a massive, massive effort for Jamie Dyke. And surely with a few laps fresher tyres, he should be able to hang on for this spot, pending no mistakes.
Well, Michael Whiting's going to have to look behind. Knows that Dylan O'Shea has a lot of pace, but maybe not the car right now, which unlocks that through turn 6. And on the power through Strand Drive, which is never truly a straight thoroughfare, to be said. O'Shea's going to have to figure out which way he wants to go. He's nowhere near close enough. Look how far he lifts out of it. Lifts out a good 200 meters before the braking zone. Just allows then the room to go through the corner. There's no point going right up behind Michael Whiting if you're not going to intend on making a move on the Fishy Motorsport machine. And this is some heads-up driving right now from Dylan O'Shea, because he knows he's not got 100% under his bonnet. So he's just going to have to try and nurse that car home for whatever result he can get his hands on.
I think he's just going to try and consolidate what he can at the moment. It looks like in the last lap and a half, he's got his head down just a little bit, and he's starting to put a little bit of pressure on Michael Whiting in the early stages of this second stint. We've got 15 laps to go this time by, so a little bit over halfway. And Dylan O'Shea, after running P2 earlier on in the race, qualified second as well. He looked pretty comfortable for second in the early stages, till a few mistakes crept in, and then Talianchis put all that pressure on, and some massive mistakes for the number 19, certainly setting him back. But we know he's got the pace to get the job done. It's whether he can do it or not.
O'Shea tucked up underneath, trying to open up and overtake, not necessarily finding it on Michael Whiting just yet. Shows half a nose to the inside at turn 6, and then looks to put the power down on Strand Drive, hoping that there is going to be a chance to make this move at turn 7. Isn't going to be there just yet. So the patience game prevailing at this stage. I do want to keep an eye out, though, on the race for second overall, because it is slowly starting to close in here for Thomas Freeman. It's 1.7 seconds. Last lap took 6/10 out of Michael Talianchis, which has woken him up on this lap, the 777, and knows that he is not going to be in a fuel-saving mode to bring himself home. Thomas Freeman is going to claw this gap back and is going to give Michael Taliancic, the veteran, a race.
Just over another 10th gain that last time by for Freeman, so looks like he's got a little bit more pace at the moment than Taliancic. He's, like you said, Sperry, he's been making up ground the last few laps since the pit stops, so Taliancic certainly will be feeling the pressure just in a little bit, as on the bottom of the screen, Dylan O'Shea is still trying to apply pressure. The 025 of Michael Whiting isn't quite close enough to get anything done quite yet, as these two will continue their battle for P number 5.
They will continue their battle, and they will know that they've got a lot to do in this race and keep themselves in position right now. So here is the focus point at this moment. You've got a very fast Thomas Freeman who is trying to give Michael Taliancic every run possible. Dylan O'Shea in the battered and bruised Simrigs.com DPR car is going to be looking at Michael Whiting in front, thinking, well, I can't afford to be too aggressive here, because if I loop the car around, Brenton Nietzsche's got my place, which is definitely not what he'll be hoping for at this stage overall. On the brakes once more, into turn 10, trying to drive off of the exit. Lovely work there from O'Shea, trying to gather as much as he can from it, but it's very difficult to make a pass here at turn 11 because it's a one-line shoots-all corner.
Certainly turn 11, not probably one of the most prime overtaking opportunities on the circuit, but if you're brave enough, if you're ballsy enough, you can certainly make it happen. But Dylan O'Shea can't quite get anything done at the moment. He's still in behind the rear spoiler of Michael Whiting. He's been trying, he's been looking left, right, up and down. He can't get anything done at this stage, so 13 laps to go, still a long way left to go in this motor race, but doesn't seem like the 19 quite has enough to get the job done. Whiting, who's doing a really good job at the moment.
I'll tell you someone else who might be looking at making a move in a moment. It's the 151 of John Fillingham at this point, because Luke Crum all of a sudden feels a little bit slower out there on circuit, and Fillingham has just turned up the wick in terms of his race. So keep an eye out on the 151 and the 30. That might be another position for the championship to deal with, but we'll take a look at them here on the bottom of your screen, running through turn 10, and this group is soon going to try and catch that. So the lap traffic game is going to be important between these two. Now, the thing that is often talked about with lap traffic is that you are allowed to battle as lap traffic, especially in front of drivers, but the crucial thing is they should be allowed that ability to race and not impede the drivers who are going to encroach on them.
Could be a little bit of an awkward moment coming up. Like you touched on, Crum and Fillingham, they're in their own race. This is for P3 in the Super Sport category. Then you got the likes of Dyke, Whiting and O'Shea. They're in their own race as well, overtaking and lapping those guys. So it might get a little bit hairy in a few laps' time when that time comes for Dyke, Whiting and O'Shea to make the moves on them, as Dylan O'Shea once again right on the rear spoiler of Whiting through the back of the lap.
Here we go.
Peaked down the inside, definitely not close enough to make that happen at least cleanly, Sperry.
Yeah, no, he wasn't quite in position to make the move, but he is now going to the Sim Racers handbook and how do you make an overtake. The first rule that you see in there is you want to get as wide as you can in the mirrors of the car in front of you. You want to seem like you are everywhere, that you are going to be panicking that driver in front. They don't know which way you're going to make a move, and that's what Dylan O'Shea is trying to do. Every chance he can get, you can see he's half a car width outside of slipstreaming and drafting. He wants to get in the mirrors to say, I'm ready, I want to make a move, I'm going to try and find a way in this Ford Mustang to try and make my pass.
Over the last lap, he's certainly gotten closer, as we will go to a VRS replay of John Fillingham, who's been closing in on Luke Crum. We went to him just a lap ago and turned 7 once again. Oh, look how close he's going to get, Sperry. Oh, he collects the wall hard with the left front. That's certainly not going to help his progress whatsoever. The 151 machine certainly just he's dropped off a little bit to Luke Crum, but not too much. The one thing about this circuit, a little bit of front end damage won't hurt your overall pace too much, because there isn't too many straights. You don't really hit a real high top speed. You only get into about 240 kilometers an hour down Central Avenue, so a little bit of front end damage won't hurt you as much here as it would at tracks like Bathurst, for example.
No, that is very true, and I'm sure he's more Nick to Bale than clobbered leg stump in terms of the way that he... Oh, car off, bang! Into Luke Crum, that is Jack Anderson finding himself in trouble. Now the lap traffic is going to be massive at this stage. Thomas Freeman's going to need coordination here to stay forward then with Michael Taliancic, and just like that, Jack Anderson throws a huge spanner in both battles.
I think I called it just a couple laps ago. It was going to get hairy, and it pretty much just eventuated. Jack Anderson trying to pick up on what happened to him. Just a mistake on his own for Jack Anderson. Luke Crum, he's got damage as well. He drove into the side. So unfortunately, Luke Crum, he's going to have to serve that with that meatball flag. So he's crabbing. So Luke Crum's actually crabbing along between 11 and 12. So that's pretty much going to be race over for him. Very unfortunate for the championship leader as well.
I'll tell you who this really does help. Christopher Tomlin, his teammate. So this is what goes wrong for Jack Anderson. He just turns it in too early. And bang, he's in the wall. Backs it up, trying to get himself out of the way. And back going again. And as he lights it up, he just clobbers Luke Crum, who's got nowhere to go in terms of that incident. And he has to drive himself back in. So there is the big issues out there. But what does it mean in terms of this race? Well, it means that this group here with Jamie Dyke and co is nose to tail. It also means that Michael Taliancic and Thomas Freeman has got to nose to tail as well. So Dyke looking behind at these two, thinking, okay, these last 10 laps are anything but easy, calm waters. Gonna have to be very alert to it. But it's now going to be about, well, okay, there's a group right down the end of Strand Drive, which is Taliancic and Freeman, who are going to go through, and they've got a bit of trouble because that's Shane Nowens who was just off in front.
More lap traffic for Taliancic and Freeman to deal with. They get by him very cleanly, so good work to Shane Nowens to realise that the leads are behind him to get out of the way. But Dylan O'Shea, he's pushing very hard. He's nearly pushing Michael Whiting through the fountain section. He's right on the back of him. He's looking very aggressive at the moment. Even Michael Whiting, he looks like he's got some pace on Jamie Dyke, who seemed to have just dropped off his pace a little bit the last few laps after that pit stop, jumping Whiting and O'Shea. So maybe Dyke is now vulnerable to the guys behind. As on top of screen is still the battle for P number 2. Taliancic and Thomas Freeman still going at it. Obviously that little incident seemed to maybe slow up Thomas Freeman a little bit. He's gained that ground right back up.
He absolutely has. That's Luke Crum back out and away again. It will be an extra lap down now here in this race. It's going to be behind Christopher Tomlin in terms of pace. But at least for the moment, Jamie Dyke looks like he's safe then into turn 4. There's troubles down there at turn 3 though, as that is going to be Shane Nowens who's going to have to get well out of the way of everyone. Now look at this, they're going to have to extricate through. The battle for position between Anderson and Fillingham. They have the license to battle. They're going to wait to Strand Drive to really make this move. Jamie Dyke does not like being bottled up like this. If he doesn't get the run he wants, he's in trouble through this section. But look at this. He's going to get a good drive through. He's going to get the first of them, and he's going to need everybody else in the train to follow. Michael Whiting's going to have to dive through. Anderson gets on the brakes. Fillingham almost in trouble. In the wall behind. Big accident then. O'Shea in trouble as they all slowed up. Anderson and Fillingham trying to get out of the way, and O'Shea's just gone and got them. Middle stump, not leg.
Massive moment there for Dylan O'Shea. It looked like that, we're trying to pick up Jack Anderson, just slowed up a little bit more than what John Fillingham expected. Fillingham went to the left to try and avoid Jack Anderson, and then in the path was Dylan O'Shea. Just a very, very awkward incident. Will go on board with the number 19. Ahead is Anderson, there's Fillingham, there's bang. It's all over there for Dylan O'Shea, who really did nothing wrong. Just a really awkward predicament. And one thing unique about this series, you've got 2 classes racing against 1. So like you touched on, Sperry, those guys in Supersport, they're allowed to race hard. They're not they are technically lap traffic, but they got the license to race out because they are in their own little race.
I will say Dylan O'Shea should have been a little bit more alert there in terms of trying to get across. They did make it known to go forward. I think he just switched off seeing those 2 drivers go through. And just like that, O'Shea's race goes from bad to worse to downright diabolical. Here comes Thomas Freeman to the outside, and Michael Taliancic covered. Big late look to the inside. Oh, he almost caught him napping there. and that will alert then 777 that you have to cover through all of this section of road if you want to make sure the position is safe.
That was some pretty cool driving there from the 777 and number 1. They are going hammer and tong for P number 2 here. It's all action station at the moment between these two. They've checked out. They've got about 10 seconds now. It's pretty much now Dyke and Whiting battling for P4. They've checked out. They've got 20 seconds on Brendan Nishka, so he's no threat at the moment. But the main battle we will keep an eye out on for the final 7 laps of this race is certainly going to be between the 777 and number 1. They've been going hammer and tong for the last few laps. Nothing in it in lap time wise, and these two have been held up by a little bit of traffic. They got none ahead of them, so it's really just go for broke these last 7 laps.
Absolutely. They've got a gap of 10 seconds to work with here in this one, and heavily hitting the curb there through 3 is Thomas Freeman to go through. John Fillingham, by the way, from that instant, did have to take the black and orange mechanical flag. That will promote Luke Crum up an extra position, and he's just behind Christopher Tomlin in terms of place. He's back out and away again in 13th, so keep that in mind. He is able to continue out there in this race. Tell you what, Christopher Tomlin hasn't done anything in this race, and he might come out of this with a really strong result, depending on how wounded Jack Anderson is between now and the end of this one as they go through. Jamie Dyke will be looking behind at his teammate Michael Whiting going, do we want to play for 4th place? We've got a gap of about 20 seconds. We could race for 4th place.
If we have a mo, we might try and pick up the 319 of Jack Anderson. He has huge damage on the front of that race car at the moment. He's currently P2 in class in the Super Sport category, but I have a feeling that car won't last much longer because he's got some monumental damage on the front end there. I do have a sneaky feeling that the engine might expire very soon on that car. I don't think he's got that long left, and that will promote Tomlin to 2nd in class if that does happen, and Luke Crum right there, currently P4, but Ty Delaney, like Andrew Dyson, we haven't really talked about him tonight. He's just gone a lap down to Dyson, but he is miles ahead of Jack Anderson. Jack Anderson currently in turn number 11, and at the moment Ty Delaney is in turn 6, so that is how much of a lead the 07 has in class.
I tell you what, Jack Anderson's car is missing so many parts. It might also be missing the R in car out there. So it's just the cat at this stage, which he's got driving. There is still Michael Whiting. Close, but isn't quite able to get to Jamie Dyke just yet. So there's focus. But I'll tell you what, keep an eye on Thomas Freeman right now, because he's starting to search for a place. And he's almost got himself alongside at turn 7. In towards that section of road. So it is getting a little bit closer for 2nd position. There is also the race on as well, 7th and 8th places that we haven't really talked about here. Tim Mulford and Seth Brown will take a look at right now. Now, this is an important one here because Tim Mulford would absolutely love these points. Seth Brown, though, just as we say that, very nearly gets himself crisscross applesauced out of shape.
A little bit of mo there for Seth Brown in behind Tim Mulford. These guys have pretty much been stuck together all race, it seems. We picked them up earlier on the race, battling for position, and now they're battling for P number 7. 1 minute, or just over a minute off the lead. They're in their own little race at the moment because Ty Delaney's really nowhere to be seen in behind, and they're about 17 odd seconds behind the 066 of Nishka. So Brown and Mulford having their own little battle at the moment here for P7. A little bit of bragging rights between the two.
Yeah, but now just starting to pull away a little bit. This will be for the first time in a little while. Tim Mulford getting some breathing room, almost a second, will be very, very useful for him at this stage, knowing that they can't catch Brenton Nitschke just in front. So Seth Brown is going to have to try and start driving pretty aggressively to get back into contention here in this one. I do still want to go back to that 2nd place scrap at the moment because Michael Taliancic doing everything right in 2nd. Thomas Freeman, you could argue as well, doing everything right in 3rd. Look at that. Sparks flying off the wall then from Michael Taliancic. Not once, but twice through then the middle sectors through turns 7 and 8. So he is really taking liberties out there, proving it's a street circuit. You leave a part of yourself, you feel, out there on a track like this, and is definitely trying now to get through. Definitely trying to find that place. Number 1 all over the back of 777.
He's certainly applying the pressure here. Thomas Freeman, the number 1 machine, looks like he's closed right up in the back of Taliancich. I don't think he'll do anything at turn 1. His focus will be that exit off turn number 2. Will he get the car turned and over the bump safely? It looks like Taliancich actually pulls away about 2 or 3 car lengths through turn number 2. And then on the exit of turn number 2, Freeman gets it back. He closes up. He's going to have a look down the inside. Will he bomb him into this corner? We've only got 4 laps to go, and Freeman won't get anything done this time by, but the pressure is certainly being applied. Big moment in the grass there for Freeman. Taliancich a little bit slower on exit. Allows Freeman to catch right back up, and he's going to have a look at turn number 4 there. Turn number 5. I'm losing my corners. Through turn number 6, Freeman loses a little bit of ground. Taliancich runs a little bit wide. Thomas Freeman, I think, is going to have a look here down Strand Avenue into turn number 7.
There's some heavy fuel saving here from Taliancich, and this is big as they head to turn 7. Taliancich fighting this race not only here from a perspective here, but with the fuel tank, and he's going to have to try and push him through. He has to leave the room now at turn 8 because Freeman's there at the inside. Oh, he pinches him all the way. They'll continue here to turn 9, but Taliancich holds. Oh, what a hold. But he's still going to have to fight the fuel tank because of the way he underfueled.
Taliancich certainly struggling a little bit with that field. We think to get that positions in the ground he made up earlier on in the race, he certainly looks like he underfueled just a little bit because he's certainly dropped off the pace massively in the last lap and a half, and Thomas Freeman is certainly right on the back of him with 3 laps to go this time by, in the number 1 machine certainly poised for a massive move on the 777.
So 1:31.9 that last time from Taliancich. That's 1.5 seconds slower than the lap before. That's how much they're checking up. Thomas Freeman's going to have to try and find a way through here in the Fishy Motorsport car. Not there at turn 3 once again, but this time you're going to have to be a little bit more alert. You can't fuel save here, Michael. He's pushing you too quickly at this point in time. Through 4 and 5, Taliancich will know when he can fuel save and when he can't, and he'll be staring very, very rigorously at the black box relative that he's got right now, thinking, well, how much have I got? Look how much they pushed through 6. Both of them almost finding the wall.
Detroit Belle turning it on once again in the DSL V8 SuperCup here for round number 10 tonight. Freeman all over the back of Taliancich once again. This race has absolutely turned it on. There's been drama. There's been action for Andrew Dyson. It's been smooth sailing. But between these two drivers, they are going at it for the final couple laps in this race. Every point means something. Every result means something for these drivers. And Thomas Freeman is absolutely pushing his car to the limit to try and get this P number 2.
He wants it, but Michael Taliancich isn't necessarily going to give it to him at this moment. So you've always got to keep that in mind. There is a race leader, by the way, who's 18 seconds to the good down the road. 2 laps to go, a couple of popsicle sticks then here at the Motor City as they run through turn 2 and now charge towards turn 3. Thomas Freeman still not in position. He is just a car length too far back, but it's going to have to try and rally to find a place here, get some drive somewhere, find a small opening, and a very small opening it must be. 5 and 6 must be mega from him at this moment in time, and he's just there, but there isn't going to get an overtake. You're going to have to do something extra.
Taliancich will be focusing on his exit drive off the corner, especially off turn number 6 and turn number 2, because that's where he's going to be vulnerable at 3 and 7. Freeman, another really good run down Strand Drive. He's not quite close enough once again. He'll have to try and apply some pressure through the fountain section and try and get something done, maybe at turn 11, maybe turn 12, if he's risky enough. But up ahead is Ty Delaney, the Supersport leader. He might just affect this race. He might get out of the way just in time for these guys, as Dyson's about to take the white flag for the final lap of the race, but it is not over yet between Taliancich and Freeman.
No, I certainly agree in that sense. It's not over and done with right now. But you have to sense the white flag has already been taken by Andrew Dyson, that this is a race between these two that could bring everything through. What does Thomas Freeman have in the locker to put Michael Taliancich on notice here? Through turn 2, Taliancich uses all of the road. Freeman does as well, but Freeman's not got the run for the prime place, and it will be taken away by the lap traffic, which hits the brakes. there of Ty Delaney, who's driven a wonderful race here today. There'll only be 8 cars on the leading lap by the time this race is over. Through turn 4 then for Taliant. She's got it covered, and still also covered Jamie Dyke having to deal with Michael Whiting, who is as close as possible. But will the fishy cars remain in line? They're 3rd, 4th and 5th right now in this race. Good run there by Thomas Freeman. He'll have a shot at turn 7 if he wants it. He's going to have to go from a lead back, though, if he wants to try and make this one happen. He'll move to the left. He's not got an angle, though, on Michael Taliantic. Now he's praying for the fuel to run out as they go through turn 7, all over the curb, trying to find a run. Not quite there just yet, but rounding through 11 and 12 and now 13 is Andrew Dyson, who will now drive to the line, and he has proven that there is no equal to him in this series. He will take the victory and surely the title as well, with an unstoppable drive here today. Taliancic still holding for the moment through turn 12, still holding for the moment through turn 13. Now how much fuel has he got in his car? The answer is enough. He will hold on for 2nd position as he comes to the line ahead of Thomas Freeman, and behind that Jamie Dyker and Michael Whiting will stay line astern for their places. The only other battle to determine then is Tim Mulford and Seth Brown's fight right now, and they head here to turn 7A and 7B. It is victory for Ty Delaney in class as he crossed the line here, though. But now you start wondering about Tim Mulford, Seth Brown here, really, Brady.
Looks pretty consolidated at the moment for Tim Mulford to snatch that P7 here tonight, unless one little mistake comes about in the final couple of corners. Seth Brown is right on the back of him. Like I mentioned earlier, these guys have pretty much not been separated the entire race length, all 150 kilometers, all 40 laps, and Tim Mulford will come across the line P7, but man, what a race there between Taliancic and Freeman, and then even the battles between Jamie Dyke, Michael Whiting, and Dylan O'Shea when he was in the race. Absolutely phenomenal, but man, you can't stop the 41 machine. You can't stop SimReach.com DPR. They've been on an absolute tear in this series, and Andrew Dyson just shows once again he deserves this championship in the bag, because he's driven a fantastic race again tonight, as well as pretty much nearly every other week that he's been a part of.
Yeah, no, someone's going to have to turn up and try and stop him, because he has got a really, really good turn of pace around this circuit, and it has gone and proven it. Let's get confirmation, though, of results here from this Detroit Grand Prix circuit at Belle Isle. And as follows, it is Andrew Dyson who will pick up the victory in 1 hour exactly and 35 seconds, and wins by 18.1 over Michael Taliancic, who finishes in 2nd. He was able to stave off the challenge of Thomas Freeman and fuel save while he was at it, with Jamie Dyke and Michael Whiting the 4th and 5th positions, making 3 fishy cars inside the top 5. Brenton Nitschke qualified in at the 11th hour, started 13th, got all the way up to 6th place. What a great result for the 066 then, in 6th place, with Tim Mulford in 7th, holding off Seth Brown for the last spots on the leading lap, 7th and 8th position. Ty Delaney takes a Super Sport category victory in 9th, and Jack Anderson will have a lot of explaining to do by the end of his race. It was eventful from start to finish. He gained 10 spots, but also found himself in the wall, involving a couple cars behind, which included the likes, of course, of Luke Crum in 12th position. Christopher Tomlin will take some vital championship points as well in 11th position. Following that, you've got Shane Nowens, who is 13th, 2 laps down, and then all the other drivers are retirees, and we do expect it here at the Motor City Detroit Belle Isle. John Fillingham, Dylan O'Shea, Brian Borg, Sebastian Varndell, Jack Mickelson, Troy Mortensen, and then on lap 2, David Coleman, a retiree from this race. So troubles for all of those drivers here today around this racetrack. But what we do have, though, is the ability to jump in and have a conversation with our race winner overall, Andrew Dyson, who joins us right now. Andrew, I think there's no other way to say this. You probably had yourself the nicest Friday night drive that I think you've had in a very long time.
Well, yeah, the result's nice, but that track's pretty tough, man. So you're on the edge, like, of getting near the fences a fair bit. So you're still, you're still having a go. But that was good. It was a good race. for me.
It was a great race for you. Let's talk, though, about what makes this circuit difficult. Your teammate clobbered the wall about 5 occasions over the course of tonight. How much are you trying to drive this Belle circuit to the ragged edge, and how important has the prior experiences that you've had around this circuit shaped the way that you drive this place?
Well, I think experience tells me that the ragged edge is probably, you've already overstepped it. So I've backed off a little bit and just tried to keep it under control and keep it nice and smooth, and just watch what all the aliens are doing basically, and try and learn from that. But there's plenty of commitment under brakes around here. All it takes is one snag and you're kind of missing an apex and stuff like that. So all the bumps, the curbs, there's plenty of things that make this track tough.
Well, this is a tough circuit. You're heading to more familiar ground, though, next week. It is 200 kilometers over at Winton. How are you feeling about that? A track which hasn't been run as much in the iRacing service, is one of the newer circuits out there. But what does Winton bring as a challenge to you?
Traction, man. Yeah, very tough with traction around that track, and pinch in fronts as well. Same with this track, so because there's a lot of slow stuff. And you're running the shortest gear ratio at that track as well as this one. So kind of similar, not as bumpy, but yeah, pretty tough as well. It's very tough to pass there. I suppose similar to this one as well. So it has its challenges for sure.
It certainly will have its challenges, and we will see that in a week's time. But here with another victory, Andrew, I'm sure everyone knows who the sponsors are, but any chance to thank them is definitely well appreciated by you.
Yeah, they're all on the card. Mostly just thanks to all the drivers that are coming out tonight, because obviously, like we've said already, it's a tough track, and probably deter some guys from coming out, and hopefully they're getting some practice for next week. Winton being pretty popular amongst a lot of people, so look forward to seeing everybody out. Thanks to you guys for doing the broadcast, and thanks to all the guys who put the league together.
No worries at all. Andrew Dyson picking up the victory once again. A fantastic showcase from him. We do have, though, our Super Sport victor overall. Stood by with Brady Baldwin. It's Ty Delaney.
Ty Delaney, first off, congratulations on your win in the Super Sport category tonight. Not much really to say about your races. Pretty trouble-free and pretty much on your own the whole race. Tell us about your race, how you saw it behind the wheel of the 07 machine.
It was a pretty not too exciting race for me. Tried to just get it off the line well. It wasn't the best start, but then I just tried to get into a rhythm and did so, and just tried to keep it off the walls.
Certainly not the easiest thing to do around Detroit Belle. You managed your race pretty well. A few battle scars on the front end, but in the end, a massive margin for you. In the end, back to Jack Anderson and P2. So what was the keys to your race here today? Was it just to keep it smooth and keep the tyres under you for the length of the race?
Yeah, just needed to keep it smooth, not hit any walls, but wasn't able to do that, but still came pretty clean compared to some other drivers. But yeah, wasn't the race I was hoping for, but it was very good.
Next week, we will head to the second last round of the championship at Winton, somewhat of a similar circuit to Detroit Belle without all the concrete walls. What do you think your biggest challenge is going to be at Winton next week?
Probably just keeping it off the dirt. I really love Winton, so I can have a good result there.
Sounds like it's going to be another good week for the 07 of Ty Delaney. Before we let you go, Ty, any sponsor shout-outs you want to give and anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Western Motor Group, Parramatta Suzu Ute, DC Shades, Relax, Precision Sim Training, Infinity Designs, Adrenaline Images, Precision Sim Training, Battery Warehouse, MJS Gaming, and most of all, Fisher Motorsports.
Thank you for the chat once again, Ty. Congratulations on your win, and hopefully we're talking to you again next week.
Thank you.
Jake Sperry has gone down the lane and he has picked up the 777 driver Michael Talianchich after his P2 performance tonight after an incredible race with Thomas Freeman.
I absolutely have. Now, Michael, you've been around quite a bit. You've seen a lot of sim racing, but talk us through from about the end of your first stint on, because you come out of the pit, you look around and go, well, hang on a minute. Where is Dylan O'Shea? He ends up falling a long way down the field. And your strategy after coming in with Thomas Freeman is trying to hold him off and playing with the fuel tank a little bit.
Yeah, I was a bit short on fuel in that race. It was the first time running crew chief, and when Dylan slowed down a bit there, my fuel burn dropped off, and it averaged my fuel burn to those last few laps. So I ended up having to fuel save all the way home. But it's quite a hard track to pass and get a run on, so I had a bit of a leeway having track position over Thomas. Yeah, I was just trying to make sure I had good exits and being slightly defensive if he was close so he didn't dive.
Talk to us about the arm, because it's been a point in contention all season long. How is the arm doing, and what's it sort of limiting you in terms of your sim racing output?
I can't really put much strength into it. I can hold onto the wheel now because I've had the cast removed a week ago, which allows me to shift on my wheel comfortably now. But I can't shift on tight corners because I can't hold onto the wheel, unfortunately. I can't bend my wrist back, but it's improving quite fast, and I've been told by my physio today that I can start putting strength into it as of Wednesday next week, so that will allow me to start turning my force feedback up, because I've had my force feedback turned right down while I've had my injury. I think it will be a bit more comfortable with my feedback back up.
So what you're just telling everyone right now is that you are a tour de force when it comes to Winton next week.
I wouldn't say that. I hate Winton. Yeah, it's not my track. I'll do my best, but I don't expect to get any good result there. But if I have a smart race, I should still be able to do alright. But I don't expect to have race-winning pace or a podium. But we'll see. I'll give it my best shot.
Well, that's all we can ask from you, Mike. But before we let you go, you've been here racing really, really hard through all of the injury as well. So shout out sponsors, floor is yours.
I'd just like to shout out VNM Simulation and Sideways Photography. We're also on the hunt for some new sponsors for the season to try and get some funding for the team. So if anyone's listening in that potentially could be interested in sponsoring the team, get in touch, please. And thanks to you guys for putting on the broadcast and the lone admin we had controlling the race today. Well done to Andrew and Thomas.
No worries at all then. Michael Taliancic then finishing home in second position overall. Brady, you found the other driver on the end of that, Thomas Freeman.
Thomas, what an epic battle there towards the end of the race with Michael Taliancic. You had to work your way back through the field after that small mistake earlier in the race. Sort of set you back a little bit there. Tell us about the view from your end in the number one machine.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Really, really good, I think, tonight. The track, well, at turn 2 there, not turn 2, turn 3, it's very hard in the braking zone, and when I made that slight mistake, it wasn't a big deal. Got out of it pretty clean, and then all my confidence was pretty much gone, and then Borgie pretty much took off, and then had to work my way back. Borgie made a mistake, and then as we kept doing laps and laps, and my lap times come back down, and I seen that I was catching O'Shea and Mike. It was really, really good, and from there, it was pretty good, and yeah, good battle at the end there.
In your eyes, what is the biggest challenge about Detroit Belle? Is it the tight confines? Is it the bumps? Is it a combination of everything?
Yeah, I think you nailed it on that last one. I think it's just a combination of everything. Like one lap, you got heaps of traction, and then the next lap you got no rear end, and then the next lap you might get a little bit of understeer, and then you go to the next lap and you don't know if you're going to get understeer, oversteer, and it is a little bit difficult. But I think confidence as well is pretty big key around any street circuit. Once your confidence is up, if you make a slight mistake, you can kind of keep up that pace, so to speak, and yeah, be safe. But like you said, definitely, I think it's a bit of everything around a street circuit with the wall so close.
I think you hit the nail pretty well on the head right there. Next week, we'll go to another difficult track on the schedule, Winton, for 200 kilometres, somewhat similar to Detroit Belle. Tight confines with no concrete walls and tight corners and minimal overtaking. So what do you think the challenges will be there next week?
Yeah, pretty much probably the same tonight. Like you said, no walls, but I think the grass can be definitely tricky if you go off, and you can definitely lose a fair few spots. But I mean, you can keep the car relatively undamaged if you do go off on the grass. Look, qualifying be important. I don't qualify it well that often, but we'll see what we can do, get the car up there and just stay consistent now with only the 2 races to go. And I think now with what's been happening and in the points, we're sitting pretty good now. So yeah, we'll see what we can do and just try my best. Big sends, and yeah.
Once again, congratulations on your third place run here tonight. Fantastic battle there with the 777. And before we let you go, any other sponsor shout-outs do you want to give and any thank yous?
Yeah, thanks, guys. So, West End Motor Group, Parramatta Peugeot Professional, Parramatta City Great Wall, Western Parramatta, Parramatta Isuzu Utes, DC Shades, Relax, Precision Training and Technique Setups, Infinity Designs, and of course, Fishy Motorsports. I'd like to thank my mum and dad for supporting me as well, watching you guys broadcast, and again, also to you guys for broadcasting. Put on a great show, and it's always awesome to watch. So, thank you.
Thank you for the thank yous, Thomas, and hopefully we're talking to you once again next week.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks heaps, guys.
Well, Jake Sperry, man, it didn't disappoint whatsoever. Detroit Belle Isle once again here on the iRacing service. And next week, round number 11, the second to last round of the season, we'll head to Winton Friday, 24th of February. Once again, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. Will certainly be another really tough race out there for the drivers. Like the drivers mentioned in the podium interviews, very hard place to overtake and get the moves done. So qualifying is going to be really critical next week at Winton.
I certainly agree. Winton is one of those circuits where you have to be really switched on, and as a supercar fan, you look at this place and go, this is where I want to be racing here, and this is where I want to try and prove that I am as quick as possible. Same time, same place, 1 week from today. Make sure that you check that out with us here at SimSpeed TV. And a massive thanks has to go, of course, to Inside Lane Productions, has to go, of course, to Double S Images, and on top of that, to the title sponsor, DSL Welding, of course, from the DSL Welding V8 SuperCup. This third season has proven to be a very, very important showcase on who's got it and who's not got it. Ty Delaney will extend his championship lead, but by no means will he feel safe by the time that he's said and done with what he's got with it. For Andrew Dyson, it's all but wrapped up now. He just seemingly finds an extra gear when he hits the late stage of the season. To Winton we go, round 11, 200 kilometres awaits.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.